There's a video that needs to be done. Gearing 29ers for wheelies. So Christmas 2020 was my first wheelie. I flipped it, landed on my back. I'm out 2 months. Then in 2021 I got COVID. I was out 2 months. This is 6 months of wheelie progress for me at the age of 50. Guys, you can do it too. Get a bike and get it on. Now, I'm gonna speak from my own experience because I searched YouTube high and low for a video that would tell me something about gearing. And you know what? I maybe get this much. And I have to watch like miles of like wheelie footage with young, immature kids. Honestly, being losers in the street, man. I'm talking about the swerving. The swerving, that's lame. That's lame, man. We need to raise the bar, you know. We need the boys over at SE to like not glamorize that, not reward the kids that are acting like that. And I'm going to give you my 2 cents. If you're going to do combos, dude, slow down. Make your combos look good, you know, like a ballet, like a good dancer, right? You got your shitty dancer that can do the running man or can do the glide or the slide or whatever you call it. But then you got that person that puts the style in. Well, most of you guys doing these combos, dude, you hop around, you look like flailing whatever, and it's just not good. I would rather see a guy like Steezy just pulling some sick wheelies and doing some carves and going in and out of here and there. That pumps me up. That gets me hyped. But seeing a kid trying to throw like 50 different variations of combos off the back of his bike and not doing it in like a flowing, like in a well-formed, well-oiled machine, it kind of looks like shit. But anyway, this video is about gearing, so there you go, getting me started on it. So let me get into my background first with the SE bike. I discovered them a little bit before Christmas in 2019. And, you know, this is pandemic. I see these wheelie kids, these guys doing wheelies on these bikes called SE bikes. And I got into it quick. I have a video on my channel of me getting my bike. My wife landed this thing like within a week, like right before Christmas. And I had a lifelong dream to learn wheelies. But when I got my bike, a blue 2021 SE Monster Quad with the big fat tires. Initially, I thought those fat tires kind of sucked. Like if I would have seen that bike in the store, I wouldn't have liked it. I was tripped out on the big fat wheels. I got it anyway, and honestly, fast forward, I love those big fat wheels now. Dude, I get it 100%. And if you're at the store looking at your first SE bike and you see those big 2.8 inch wide V tires, dude, don't let that trip. You're gonna learn to love those wheels. I am really kind of turned off by a 2-inch tire. 2.5. I like the fatter tire better, and they're easier to wheelie, point blank, hands down. Not that you can't do it on the other wheel. You can. We all seen these guys on these fixed gear bikes look like 10 speeds pulling wheelies on these really narrow tires. That they can do it. I can't do it, but I can on a bigger bike. So anyway, when I got that Monster Quad and I tried to pull my first wheelie, I couldn't get it off the ground barely. And I like, dude, what am I going to do to pull a wheelie on this bike, you know? And then I just started to get technique, practice technique, use more muscle, try standing up and then throwing myself into the saddle, sitting down. And, you know, I'm a big guy. I'm 5'10", 220 plus pounds. I just need better technique. There were a couple videos talking about gearing, but none of them really addressed my question for my particular bike. So I'm going to get into the first things that might throw you off when you get a bike. This right here is the bike I ended up trading my Monster Quad for. Basically, it's a Monster Ripper. It's just got a different shape frame, The Monster Quad has that quad angle frame from back in the 80s. I was not a fan of that. I just didn't think it looked very cool. It made it harder to hang on bike racks, and I just didn't love it too much until I saw this bike, and I'll tell you why. Let me come around here. Not to mention having a standard shape frame, which I like better. It was this internal cable mounting that goes through the frame there. I just dig the way that was, and I like this bike a lot better. And I'm not a huge fan of the color, but I don't mind it either. I think it looks pretty sick. Right here, this bike I bought after the Monster Quad. Once I knew I liked SE bikes, once I knew I was going to be able to learn to ride wheelies, I was really digging the idea of the V-brake. A lot of people were saying that they were easy to learn wheelies on originally. Since then, on the other bike, this one here comes with the hydros, front and rear brakes. This is a little bit higher in the price bracket. It's like a couple extra $100 for this bike, but I am starting to really like the disc brakes on it. And as far as it's going to keep you safe when you learn a wheelie, so that becomes an important thing. However, the V-brakes became really handy for me, and I constantly have to work on them to keep them dialed in so that they can stop me when I need to stop, right? Before I flip over and land on my back. The differences. So this is basically a Big Ripper. It's a D-Block's version of the standard Big Ripper. Some of the things that come on the bike are a little different, but it's a Big Ripper. The differences between these bikes are that in the front here, that's a sprocket. Over here, that's a chain ring. If you're going to order a sprocket, it's going to be like this, and your crank is going to bolt through to there. If you have this kind of crank, I don't even know what they're called, but it doesn't matter. And it has this spindle attached to your crank arm and has 4 bolts, then that's different. That's a chain ring. So first off, identify what bike you have before you start researching products. I didn't realize this. Now this Monster Ripper or Monster Quad or any of the bikes that have that crank setup down there in the back, this is not a freewheel. That's a cog. And I didn't know this either. This bike right here has a freewheel, and that's it right there. Now, so these are the first 2 things you got to know. If you've got a Big Ripper, you have a freewheel and you have a sprocket. If you have a Monster Ripper or Monster Quad, then you're going to have a chain ring and a cog. This bike originally came with a 39 tooth chain ring in the front and 20 tooth cog in the back. Now, that's a decent wheelie gear for a guy like me. 5'10", 220 plus. That is a pretty good gear. It's going to be hard to get up. You have to basically learn your technique, fully put your leg into it, fully lean back, fully get that wheel up. But when you get it up, you can do your wheelie nice and smooth, and you can do it a little slower because you're in a bigger gear. So it's really nice if you have to pedal a little faster to keep the balance and to keep at 12 o'clock by, getting your bike up underneath you more. You're not going to have to pedal as fast as if you have an easier gear. I left the cog 20 tooth in the back really because I just didn't understand it. And I thought, I'm going to change the chain ring on this. And I did that after I bought this other bike. This bike originally came with a 36 tooth sprocket in the front, and it came with 16 tooth freewheel in the back. And this bike was harder to pull up a wheelie. And I expected it was going to be easier. This one was honestly pretty nasty. I'm a skateboarder. I'm 51. My knees are challenged some of the times. And I wouldn't say I have super bad knees or anything like that. I was gonna try to learn a wheelie, because when you're learning a wheelie, you're scared and you're pulling this thing up 1,000 more times than somebody that knows how to do it. He's pulling it up once or twice, and this is going to be in my wheelie tip section for sure. But I ended up switching the chain ring out here from a 39 to a 36. And for this bike, a 20 tooth cog stock in the back, and then you reduce your 39 chain ring to a 36 chain ring. Primo. I think that's perfect. It's perfect. That's perfect. That is money. That is money right there. In my opinion, perfection. So I basically did the same thing over here. I had the 36 that came on it stock. That's not a 36. So this is my stock SE chain ring that came on it. It's a 36. And this is a 20 tooth freewheel. That puppy just screws right on the end of the hub. It's pretty easy. If you're going to change your own freewheel out, you will need to buy one of these. Basically just locks in there. There are good videos online, particularly one from Isaac at Big Bike BMX, him and Craig. They do a couple of really rad videos on changing out these things. I've got another 20 right there in the bag. On deck, man, because parts are hard to come by right now. I had a 3620 on here, and it worked good. So then, as I start to get more into it and get more understanding, I'm downloading more of this knowledge from watching the Big Bikes BMX videos and whatever. I'm starting to learn. Everybody seems to like these Ride Out Supply freewheels or the Origin 8 Hornet because they're really super loud when they click. Like this right here. Listen to this. Super loud. After riding it yesterday for my first day, I don't really like it. I don't care for the loudness, but there's a difference in the quality. They call it engagement. And that's like sloppiness, right? Like when you're pedaling one of these cheaper $20 freewheels, like there's a lot of play from the time you stop pedaling to the time you want it to engage and you're pedaling again. It's like you're doing a quarter rotation. And for a wheelie, you want that to be pretty responsive. So I had to jump into it, but these things have been sold out. So I first scored a 17 tooth Origin 8, and I figured I'll drop the $50 on that. I'll find the right chain ring that's going to match for a 17 tooth. I go to YouTube, nothing. Unless I'm going to watch hours of some kids that are, swerving traffic and being little problems in the street. Let's face it, that's what it is. I mean, God, dude. My car was totaled yesterday with my family in it. And come on, guys. Raise the bar a little bit. We got to be better representatives of this bike life thing than that, in my opinion. I picked up a 33 tooth to try that. And I did that after I made a post on Facebook. And a lot of guys came on there and were like, man, I ride a 17 tooth in the back, freewheel, and I ride a 33 in the front. So I'm thinking, jackpot. I was asking what would compare to a 3620. And general thought was that this was going to be easy. Craig from Big Bike BMX mentioned that he rode a 33 front sprocket and a 17 freewheel, but a lot of times on rides he found that it wasn't enough gearing to keep up with other people if they're riding fast. And so I got that. So I turn around and the next night I ordered a 16 tooth because these things are hard to come by. So a 17 tooth freewheel and a 33 tooth front sprocket, it's good. If you know how to wheelie, it's good. It's probably ideal. It's probably what you want because you want to find that perfect balance between being able to lift it up, ride a wheelie. It's good at that. And having enough gearing so that you can go downhill without bobbing all over the bike because your feet can't go any faster, right? Because that sucks. But I live out here in Austin, and we're mostly flat. There's some up and down, but not hilly like California where they're at. So probably when you know how to do a wheelie, a 33/17 is probably ideal. I would also say that the 20/39 is probably ideal. But when you're in the process of learning wheelies, you want to find a gearing that's going to let you get it up easier. Because especially if you're an older dude like me at 51, your knees can't take a lot of this before you'll start feeling some aches and pains. And I'll tell you right now, I was starting to tell myself, look, I better make better attempts at getting to balance point right off the bat, because I noticed the wear and tear on my knees was getting pretty bad. So I started making better attempts at getting all the way there, and it started helping a lot. But then once I found I'm going to change gears and I'm going to go on an easier gearing, and I started to experiment, and that meant this. You know, in order to experiment, I had to spend several $100 probably. Honestly, I probably got over $200 at least in just trying gears in here. And this is why I'm making this video. I just mentioned that last night I ordered an 18 tooth Origin 8 freewheel. And I'm going to pair that with the 33 in the front. And I'm hoping that's going to be perfect. You know, it's going to be easier. When you go up in the back, it's going to make your wheelies easier. Yeah. And I think I heard somewhere on some video that like one tooth in the back was equal to like 3 or 4 teeth on your front sprocket. Do your own research on that. I think that's about right. I know going smaller in the front and bigger in the rear, having them closer to the same size, helps them get easier. So there it is. There it is. To recap, I'm talking about a 29-inch tire. If you've got a different size tire, these ratios aren't going to be the same. But on a 29-inch tire, if you know how to wheelie already, I think a 39/20 in the back is a good combo. I think a 36/20 is a better combo, especially if you're still learning the wheelie. The other way to do it is, you know, if you've got I found a 16 and 36 tooth to be too hard. I found a 17 and a 33 tooth to be a little harder than I wanted, but totally doable. At the stage I'm at now, I can get a football field. I can wheelie about 100 yards on a good one. And the 33/17, it works for me. I do want to have it be a little bit easier so that I can just get in more and more and more attempts, because that's how I'm learning. So I turned around and went with the 18, and I'm going to use the 33, and I'm going to see how that is. So that's where I'm at this stage of the game right now. I wanted to make this video because there was not one out there that addressed all the different combinations and the different styles of bikes. I know they make some big cogs if you need to change that, but changing the chainring out is so easy. If you got a 20 tooth cog and it came stock with a 39, that's pretty darn good for wheelies. If you're learning, reduce that puppy to a 36 chainring in the front, you're happy. If you want even easier than that, go down to a 33. A 33 chainring and that 20 tooth cog in the back is probably like money for being able to just easily round the corner and just lift it up. Probably totally good. If you're learning wheelies and you're old, you want to have easier gearing than maybe is ideal to ride with. You'll be pedaling super fast, okay? And then keep in mind, if you have that kind of crank, you need a chainring. And then on that bike, a monster quad or a monster ripper like I have here, that's what it's called, you're going to have a cog in the back and not a freewheel. Here, with the big ripper, you're going to have a sprocket and you're going to have a free will. Free will. So, if you got the money and you're an older dude and you want to learn to wheelie, and say that's on your bucket list like it was me, that's the best bike you can get. It really is. I mean, coming stock, it's doable. Change out a little $20 chainring to a 36 or a 33, you're perfect. You know, you've got to keep your brakes dialed in. And so there's good videos on how to clean your disc and how to clean your brake pads. I had to do that. You have to bed in your brake pads. There's good videos teaching you all that. But to me, this is the safest. The brakes are safer, more reliable. And you rely on those brakes to keep you from landing on your back. Get that bike with those 2.8 V tires. Those are clearly, no doubt, easier to learn to wheelie on and to balance on. It's insane. I've been practicing more on this bike, but then when I get on this bike, I'm like doubling my length of a wheelie every time. So I do love this bike though. So anyway, guys, let me know in the comments below if this is helpful. Let me know if you've been dealing with the same thing, you know, trying to find a video that had these questions answered simply without, I mean, nothing ever really fully applied to me. So that's why I made the video, and hope it helps. Later.